Hi, everybody. How's it
Hello,
going?
hello.
It's Mark
and Aaron
from Art 4.
What's going on?
Hello, happy Wednesday. We're coming at you live from our living room to your living room. Hopefully the comfort of your couch, your cell phone, in your office, maybe whatever you're doing. We're here for our intermission interview, which is part of our Show Tune Sunday series. We're touching base. Yeah, yes. Woo is right. So for those of you who don't know about Show Tune Sunday, at the beginning of April, we started a program to team up with local artists who have been financially impacted by COVID-19 to throw weekly fundraisers to help people who are in need right now. And so what we do is every Sunday at 4 p.m., we launch a music video or two, and then we throw a weekly fundraiser for that artist that we're working with. And at the end of each week, any proceeds that are raised are split 50-50. 50% goes towards Art 4's 2020 programming, and the remaining 50% goes to the artists that we're working with this week.
Yay!
Yay! How about that? And this week and today, live in the studio, we have Alissa Plenzler. She's going to be joining us right now. Let's bring her in, Aaron. Hello, hello.
Oh, we got it. Here we go.
Today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's so good to see you.
You too.
I know. I love that delay in the feed. Isn't that great? So
it's lovely.
Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am originally from South Bend. I think that's been in all the posts this week. I grew up here. We moved here when I was 3 years old. Originally was born in West Virginia, but we moved here when I was 3. And, did all my learning here up until college. I'm now 25. And have been in academia at the local universities this is going on my 2nd year now. So it's been a wild ride. Never would I have ever thought that I would be coming back to South Bend to be a professor at such amazing universities. But I've been enjoying my time thus far. So yeah.
Awesome. Let's take a deeper dive into what made you decide to go to grad school, or did you think I always wanted to go to grad school, or kind of what was your process to figure out your academic journey?
They want.
Well, right. So I think it was originally just a part of the plan for me. The design in the music in higher ed and academia for music is that the terminal degree is actually the doctorate at this point in time. So I knew pretty much from freshman year that I needed to go on for further education. So I really did front load myself in terms of courses. I took, I think, 22 credit hours for my first 4 semesters at the University of Dayton, so that I was barely a full-time student by my last semester so I could audition for graduate school. So I think it's been always a part of the plan. But in terms of where I chose, I had to be a little bit more strategic about that. But I think grad school was always a part of the plan, and that I needed to continue on to know more about my own instrument and get a little bit more brain power about music itself and vocal music in today's day and age.
Yes, brain power. I love it. You really hit it off. You described my husband to a T. That was incredible. So Aaron went to his grad school at the University of Texas, North Texas.
North Texas.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh, good.
And while he was planning to leave for school to decide where he wanted to go to next, he looked up major cities cultural plans to decide what would be the best city for him. Amazing. And
that's so interesting.
And lucky me, he picked Chicago, where we met. That's really cool. Now, Dayton, your undergrad, they already shared the video of you.
Yeah, so they're very active on social. So
yeah,
I appreciate
did you know that?
Oh, they really are. It's actually a student employment position at the University of Dayton for one of our music students. I think that's been around ever since I was in undergrad there. The social presence is actually very prominent with the University of Dayton. It's always impressed me while I was there, and it makes me a proud alumna of the university, that's for sure. They're on top of it.
They're not even paying you to say that. That was unsolicited, folks. Now, yeah, go for it.
So since you were talking about terminal degrees, is there a doctorate in your future? What's the plan there?
Oh, heck yes. Yeah. So I had been planning for a while to go back, but I was being strategic on sort of what resume builders I was going to be doing in the community, and just getting involved in the community was it was something that I found really important after graduate school, because it's one thing to do the theoretical thing and learn all of this information, but it's another thing to put it in practice and relate it to a community of people that may not be exposed to the repertoire that I had been studying. But in the past couple of years, I've been feeling the itch to go back, and I hear it's harder and harder to go back the longer you wait. So especially with things going on for COVID-19, I was originally going to start applying for the fall, but we'll see. It really just depends on the amount of scholarship opportunities that are available by that point in time, because I think everyone's pulling a little tighter on those purse strings right now. But it is in my future for sure.
Yeah. What about DMA, PhD? What track?
Oh,
are
you got
at?
him. He's all in.
Oh, he's in it. He's in it for. We love investment. I am in pursuit of a DMA. Would be the end goal. So I would. The dream would be to do voice performance and pedagogy with a secondary in opera directing. So
Awesome.
we'll see what happens.
You just said, but I got very heated. Yeah,
the night is young.
When Aaron talked at home, I was like, oh my gosh, put some Susura on that. We need to stop this train right now.
This is a good segue. Anyone watching out there, if you have questions for Alissa, you can put them in the comments. So field your questions. We'll take them at the end, but I do see them as they come up on my screen. So
yes,
send your questions over.
Yeah, type away. So now that you're back in South Bend after you finished your graduate degree, what's your goal right now, or what have you been doing since you got back home?
So since being back home, it was just I needed to dive into the community and see what opportunities were available. Since I left South Bend in 2012, by the time I came back in 2018, I was very certain that the landscape of the arts community was totally changed. So I just needed to find that pulse. And I've been so lucky to work with such amazing colleagues, such as Mark and Aaron, along with Dr. Nancy Mink. That was actually the first opportunity that I was granted in South Bend, Indiana, when I auditioned for the South Bend Chamber Singers. And so from there, I auditioned for a little production, Hansel and Gretel, for South Bend Lyric Opera, at which point I got a chance to work with Mark himself. So it's just been an absolute ball of an opportunity. And from there, just various freelancing opportunities and that sort of thing that have just sort of progressed. And word of mouth is an important thing in this community, because everyone's interlocked in some way or another. Everyone knows everyone, so it's about the reputation that I've presented to everyone that has sort of helped me get job after job. So it's been really awesome, and I've been blessed, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think network is a really important thing. And I think that's why you should always treat people with kindness, right? Even if something doesn't really go the way we all want it to go, just remember that we're all human beings, and sooner or later, you're going to be working with that person again.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just treat them with some sugar and some honey.
And a big shout out to Nancy. She is a huge supporter of Art Force.
Yes, she is. And we are
an amazing friend as well.
Yes. Love you, Nancy. So you're working with a few schools right now. What is it like kind of balancing multiple gigs, so to speak? And then how has COVID-19 affected the work that you get to do with all of your students? Because I'm sure teaching remotely is, especially from the art perspective, isn't very easy. So tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So when I originally came back to South Bend, it was for the position of adjunct professor of music at Holy Cross College. Originally, I was designed to be teaching voice lessons and the academic courses in music every semester at Holy Cross College. That was for the duration of that first year. So I got to settle in a little bit before the madness began. So from there, I just sort of continue to book opportunities in the area. So I had a little bit of a ramp up that I could sort of create some nice disciplines for myself to budget my time wisely, get an actual planner because technology can fail at any point in time. That's the scariest thing for me. Luckily, I can usually remember dates and things pretty easily, but I don't want to rely on that as I get older. So it's been about just writing everything down, and then opportunity bred opportunity, and then by May of 2019, I was on the job hunt for more opportunities, which led me to become an adjunct professor at both St. Mary's College and the University of Notre Dame. So that was definitely a learning lesson, going through that summer of onboarding and then starting to figure out what the academia side of things are when juggling multiple opportunities like this. Like what school am I going to be teaching at on what days? How many students can I actually take on and not feel like I'm going to collapse? So it's just it's been an adjustment, that's for sure. But I think the fact that the students are just such lovely individuals, it makes it so much easier and actually gives me more energy to work throughout the day. So with that being said, it's a lot about just making sure to plan myself and just being self-aware about how many opportunities are too much. But it's been great so far, teaching at the 3 universities, freelancing, and helping out with the Concordia Choir at the University of Notre Dame, South Bend Chamber Singers, all of that stuff. And then also maintaining a sizable private studio of my own for any age from 10 to 18 as well. So so I've been seeing students on the side as well, along with these university gigs, to just round out the portfolio, that's for sure. But COVID-19 has definitely presented its issues, especially I think for anyone that's doing fine or performing arts. It presents its unique difficulties, especially when we talk about the voice and how we use our bodies in the space. If we can't actually be in the same space, feeling the energy about it, and actually seeing the whole person and experiencing every frequency of a person's voice, it really does limit the amount of the quality of instruction in some cases. But in some other cases, it can really be profoundly changed in the fact that you can pull in multiple resources. I've used the chat function for my Zoom lessons a whole bunch of times, just throwing YouTube clips at my students, other resources that in the moment when you're in person in lessons, you don't necessarily think about. But it does give you an opportunity on the electronic side to use the resources of the World Wide Web to help sort of back up your points and say, I'm right and here's why. but it does but also not even just like I'm right, but if I don't know the answer, I can Google it in 2 seconds flat and have it for you. So it's been interesting, but I think my students have adjusted well. They've been absolute rock stars in this whole process, and I've thanked their time and their effort immensely, because Zoom lessons can get draining if you don't have the presence of mind to keep at it.
Word. Yeah. And you already mentioned Zoom, but I was going to ask you like your technology solution or kind of some tips and tricks of what's making lessons successful for you. But
Right.
obviously is something that you like. But do you send like the recordings to them, or just that a whole delay in sound and all that stuff? Like, what are some things that maybe you do to help the lessons?
Sure. I definitely chose Zoom just because there's so much more adaptability to the application itself. At every university, that's another thing about being at the 3 universities is all 3 of them have different sets of technology. So Holy Cross is a Microsoft campus. St. Mary's uses Blackboard, and then Notre Dame uses Zoom. So I sort of had to consolidate the amount of electronic applications that I needed to learn in order to provide the same amount of the same quality of instruction to all 3 campuses. And so, yes, the lag time does present its difficulties, but even still, when the audio clips out, you can still hear a little bit of the sound in the background. So I just try and lean in a little bit closer just to hear that. But there's definitely some functionality to Zoom that does aid in that. For instance, enabling the original sound. We all know that button by now. You can actually hear the piano really well through that, and then just messing with microphone levels for sure. But yeah.
Tomorrow, we're going to be in the middle of the day. I'm just going to be like, mwah.
Yeah. When my students sing something really correct, we're moving on. All right, good. Next.
Very cool. Let's shift and talk a little bit more specifically about Show Tune Sunday and how you selected the songs that you ended up singing.
Sure. It's been an interesting time to try and figure that out, just because of the fact that I wanted something, at least for the Happy Days Are Here Again. I wanted something that had a tinge of, missing that normalcy, because the upbeat version sort of loses a little bit of its heart. So, and I've just been on a Marvelous Mrs. Maisel kick as of recently, and listened to that. Listened to that piece in it again. I hadn't heard it in a while, and I was like, oh, what if I can belt up to that E? Let's try it. So it's like, game on, let's do it. I have no other performances going on, so let's kick it. Let's get it done. And then when Mark mentioned doing a second video, I said, well, I'm already in the middle of nowhere in terms of, being able to figure out repertoire right now. So give me something. And I had already heard Journey to the Past. I was working on it with one of my students, and didn't see the appeal to it at first for some reason. Hate me, but I love it now. It sings like butter. But at that point in time, I was like, I don't get it until I actually started singing. I was like, okay, there it is. So, yeah, thank you, Mark, for that recommendation. It really did me well.
No problem. A little peer pressure never hurt anyone. Now, you looked great in the video. You sounded fantastic. They were absolutely gorgeous. What was it like performing at the Morris?
It was amazing. Just growing up in South Bend, I think it's so easy to take for granted the beauty that's actually in this city, especially if you don't see it every day. Since I grew up on the north side of South Bend, it's not I really didn't get downtown much unless I was going to performances and things. But I hadn't been inside the Morris for such a long time. I can't even remember the last time that I had been in the Morris. So it was a unique opportunity, number one, to see the space again, and number two, to be able to sing in it. I thought it was pretty cool. But the Morris is just such a lovely space that I just feel privileged that this opportunity presented itself, that I could be in the space again.
Sure, absolutely. Speaking of which, we have a special guest, everyone.
Yay!
Watch out. Hold on. Let me get the technology part ready.
As Erin's getting the technology part ready, yes, I agree. It was really cool to be performing in the Morris, and we have special guest Jane Moore from the Morris Performing Arts.
Hi.
Yay!
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you. Now, Jane, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and the mission of the Morris, what you do over there.
Sure. So the Morris is actually part of Venues, Parks and Arts, or VPA in South Bend, which encompasses city parks, trails, all the venues, including the Century Center, a couple of golf courses, and the goal of the VPA is to engage every citizen in an emotional, experience, to be part of this community in an emotional way. And I think the Morris does that by bringing shows in of all different kinds. My responsibility there is bringing in those shows, working with different show promoters to find the quality content, bring in Broadway, bring in symphony, bring in rock concerts, and it's very fun, certainly challenging in these times right now, but I absolutely love what I do there in, like Alissa said, a beautiful building that is just a staple in South Bend.
Yeah, so I have to ask, as a musical theater fan, and most of our guests watching are for musical theater fans. So, like, the season for the Morris, like, what is the process for selecting the musicals that go on there? Like, do you get presentations? Are you doing research? Like, I'm so curious in how you discover what options might even be there.
So the Morris actually works with, we're primarily a rental house. So we work with show promoters to bring in shows. And our Broadway season is programmed by American Theater Guild out of Kansas City. So we work directly with them to bring in the shows. And, so we're already talking about 21, 22, 22, and 23. Of course, with everything that's going on right now, things have kind of backpedaled and we're rescheduling and, all sorts of stuff like that. But they're amazing people. They handle a lot of venues throughout the country, and they work with a lot of top-notch productions. And, the relationship is great. They bring in great stuff for us.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, the space, as we already talked about, is absolutely gorgeous, as people can see from the recent video that we put up there. What has been some of the projects that your team has been able to get done now that there's not a consistent flow of people in and out of the house?
Well, I think like anybody in their own homes are doing the things that they don't normally have time to do. So the little painting projects, or for example, we recently had a scissor lift in our lobby, and they were cleaning each and every crystal on the chandelier. These are things that need to be done, but don't often get done because it's just, it's a we have to wait until we're slower and there's not going to be people coming through the lobby or the theater. And so there's a lot of little projects, just like we're doing at home. I know the other day I was power washing my deck. I've never done that before, but suddenly I have time to do it. It's like we're finding time for things that we don't normally have, which is, I think, a blessing in a lot of ways. Maybe a silver lining in all of this.
Yeah, and then when we were over there, we happened to see. Plus, we live beside the Morris. We also saw the Lion King trucks. But there is a certain musical that is still on stage or boxed up on stage, which was really interesting to me. That it kind of like almost stopped in time. Right? I know the performances were canceled, but it was interesting that set is just packed up, ready to be shipped to its next location, but is still just kind of hanging out in a space. How did that kind of just happen, or is that just because everybody's on hold, so everything holds in its current location, or?
Well, everything did sort of stop in time. I think the production people that were there were just as surprised as we were when everything halted so quickly. And we're offering our space as a spot to store their costumes, their sets, while everyone is figuring out what the next move is. I really don't know how long it'll stay. I know I get the question all the time. People see the truck out back, the bright yellow truck out back. They're wondering, well, why? How is that? Is it going to happen again? And, I don't believe they will be back soon, but I can't say that for sure. It's just sort of like all of us, it's kind of a wait and see when we can have, that's one of the things. So with that production, it takes quite a few people to load it out or, repack the trucks, move all the pieces. We'd be looking at anywhere from 40 to 60 people. And, that's something that we can't have right now, that many people in one enclosed space. So, we're working on the timing of that and what that looks like, and just how long it'll take to get to move on to the next thing in the theater.
Yeah, we were very lucky to be one of the people that got to see the show during the week that it was here.
I know.
So it was amazing. Like it's not the first time I've seen the show, but I'm always re-amazed. I don't know if that's an actual word, but just how much stuff there is, how many puppets and how many people, quite frankly, in that cast. Like, it is an enormous cast of singers and instrumentalists and pieces and production crew to do all of those quick changes.
Yeah.
It is quite stunning, and the way that they fly things up into the fly system for all of their sets, all of their costumes, it's hanging from the ceiling so they could do those quick changes.
Yep.
I had the opportunity to sit in on a conversation with the production manager of The Lion King when she was still here in town, and she talked about the interesting dynamic of this being a tour that is not just a Broadway style tour, but it's also run by Disney, this large corporation.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice that from a corporate side of things, they were able to handle things that quickly for their people and make sure that everybody was safe and well and really got to where they needed to go. Especially when we think of the uncertainty that's out there right now. As we move into the summer season, a lot of people really don't know what's going to happen. And I want to just throw a question at Alissa. What are your feelings about what the future of the art scene kind of looks like here in South Bend?
I hazard to guess at this point. I know the artists and those involved in the arts community. The spirit is willing, but it's a matter of resources that are devoted to these productions and people being there to support the arts. And it really just depends on after everything is said and done. How much disposable income are people willing to spend on productions and going to see things and going to support local artists. I think we have strong ties in this community and people that love to see the arts grow and shape this community to be such a well-rounded community of arts and humanities. But it's just a matter of how long this continues on, I think. But as long as there's music to be made, as long as there's a story to tell, I'm ready and I'm game. And I think a lot of the artists in this community feel the exact same way.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that this is definitely a point in time where we get to see our resilience and test our creativity. When we put limits upon something, especially artists or people of a creative mind who want to put on a type of performance or produce some art, when there are limitations put on what you can do, it just allows you to be more creative and think outside of the box.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Jane, I know that you probably don't know the future of all this stuff. Like all of us, we don't know the future. But can you talk a little bit more about how people that want to get back into the Morris when that day comes, how they can find information, or what events, or how you're having those conversations with your booking people about how we plan and navigate this very unknown schedule that is in front of us?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is going to depend on the directives from our state and local officials and what rules we're going to be required to follow. Whether those rules include, I mean, we've already implemented things like touchless hand sanitizing stations. We don't know what the future holds. Are we going to end up having to require patrons wearing face masks or temperature checks before they enter? I could speculate on a lot of things, but really it's going to be up to the mayor of South Bend or the governor of Indiana to tell us what we can and can't do. Of course, safety is paramount. We want all our patrons to feel safe. We started this past fall with metal detectors for entry into the building, which is something the Morris hadn't done. They had previously been doing bag checks just as a safety precaution, and we implemented the metal detector procedure, which I think it provides a sense of security for the people that are coming in. And so the next step is definitely going to be providing that sort of health, safety, and security. While our last production was there, we scheduled a multitude of extreme deep cleanings. And by that, I mean disinfecting, wiping down every arm on every seat in the theater every night, and things of this nature. And I think that's probably going to become more standard as things go, and we'll follow the direction of our leaders, and hope that we can start providing arts, music, theater back to the community sooner than later, because I think everybody's hungry for something to connect with that's live. Like Alissa was saying, there's just only so much technology can do to hear and experience that frequency in someone's voice. It's great that we can connect over the internet and digitally, but having that live experience, I think people are just going to be looking for it, whether it's arts or sports or anything in person.
Yeah. And we did see that Waitress had been rescheduled to next January, so I'm excited about that.
Yes. There's so many things that happen with tours. When one performance gets rescheduled, it's kind of a domino effect for them. There are so many moving parts to what they do, so many people that travel, so many theaters that they work with. And if you think about the schedule at the Morris, every theater has a schedule that right, of dates. Then you have to try to fit everything in once it's been moved. And we are so lucky that Waitress was able to reschedule to dates that worked out for everybody and that they can come back, because that's not always the case, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited.
I mean, high five to you for figuring that out. That's amazing.
It's it's with Waitress. Again, it's American Theater Guild, and working with their staff to try to find dates that work, and just a balance too, because it's going to be likely quiet for a while. Once programming starts again, how much can we cram in? I mean,
right.
People are going to be coming to something every weekend. Are they going to have the disposable income to do that? So, there's a lot of balance that we have to think about too.
Yeah. Definitely agreeing with that from an arts organization, right? What will the good balance be? And a quick, sorry, anecdotally, I was just thinking when you were commenting about cleaning the building when we were there, I just felt so bad touching everything. Everything that I touched, I heard my own mom voice inside me being like, I just cleaned that. Not everything. The big question of not only when will we be able to start back up, but when will the community at large feel comfortable enough to come back out and experience the art? We sat in on a conference, a webinar recently where they shared a statistic that about 50% of people who are already common theater goers will not feel comfortable enough until a few months down the road. And that's kind of a staggering thing to see. Of course, only time will really tell. Now, Jane, we're gonna let you go in just a second, but I have one more question for you before we go. If there was one thing that you wish that the general community kind of knew about the work of the Morris and what you do on a day-to-day basis, what would that message be for the South Bend community?
That we want to bring programming that's relevant to South Bend, that people in South Bend and the greater Michiana community want to see, want to be a part of. We listen to the comments and suggestions we get. We love getting those. While some things aren't always possible, we really want it to be the best experience for everybody that comes there, a memorable experience for, a child or person who's coming to the Morris for the first time, maybe to, see a symphony concert, all the way to somebody who's coming for the 100th time. We want it to be something that they love, that's really just becomes a part of their heart, a part of their, who they are as a South Bend resident, something they treasure and value. And just real quick, the Morris will actually be turning 100 years old in 2022. So we have a lot of good things to look forward to. Maybe some more renovations in the theater. Hopefully, some bigger shows, some cooler, different experiences, but we're all really excited that we are approaching that 100-year anniversary.
Oh, I love those breadcrumbs that you just dropped.
And I would have to say Art 4 is always interested in coming back to the Morris.
Yeah,
yay!
Yes, please.
Yes. I think engaging with the local artists is so important, and the structure of the Morris being a rental house, we sometimes try to find the balance of what works and what doesn't with local productions, but we are part of the city of South Bend. We are the residents here, the people that work there. So I would love to be able to bring Art 4 in and do something fun together in the future.
Yay! Put that on a loop. And then
the mayor. Well, we look forward to that day happening. Jane, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me. This was a lot of fun. I'm so glad you could come and record at the Morris. It felt so good to hear singing and music in there again. It's been so quiet, and it just, it kind of gives you the tingles just to hear something happening. No, it sounds crazy, but it felt so nice to hear music in there. While you were recording and doing video, I think it was great. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having us too. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. Okay. Thank you, Jane.
Bye. Thank you.
That was Jane Moore, everyone, from the Morris Performing Arts Center and Venues, Parks, and Arts for the city of South Bend. Alissa, she was just talking about you when she's talking about having music back in this space. So fun. Now, Alissa, we have a little game for you.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah. For those of you who are at home watching, we're going to be playing a little round of Would You Rather.
Oh, okay.
Which is inspired by or themed with famous opera deaths. Okay. Now, as you're hearing these come out to you, if you go ahead and comment on the one that you would rather do, folks, not to get too morbid here in the COVID-19 lifestyle that we're living in, and also. Feel free to take a stab, no pun intended, at
Oh no.
the poster and the name of the opera that it's from. We'll disclose that information when deemed appropriate. And I think we're ready for our first one.
Okay.
So here we go, friends. Alissa, would you rather be dragged down to hell by the statue of your recent victim or die from rat poison deliciously sprinkled over
Delicately.
delicately
We knew what you meant.
sprinkled over a bed of mushrooms? Deliciously.
The rat poison sounds pretty dainty. Wow, man, oh man. I think it would be epic to be dragged down to hell, but I love me some mushrooms, so maybe the mushrooms.
Yeah, I like to my college dates too. Word to that. That probably wasn't appropriate to say, but I said it.
Very long, dramatic death scene. Oh. Something a soprano would love.
Okay, we're going to talk about the operas or no? We're moving on.
I mean, we can. What I don't really know.
Do you know what operas these are from, Alissa?
I know the drag down to hell is definitely Don Giovanni. That's for sure.
Mozart, Giovanni.
Yeah, and for the right one, I apologize. I can't pull it from the top of my head.
I had no idea.
Full disclosure, I got these from the internet.
Oh Lord.
And I brought them to my husband, who has a doctorate in orchestral conducting. Some of those he was like, "Oh, so you picked things that weren't from operas?" I was like, "No, these are all from operas."
These are operas.
So that one is from Lady Macbeth of Mitsensik.
This is a Shostakovich opera. So I'm not very familiar with Shostakovich opera. So.
Now, if during your free time you Google famous opera deaths like I do, you will find that one comes up on pretty much every list.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, the mushrooms.
So don't forget, all those watching, you can also say, would you rather die by with these choices as well. We would love to hear your comments.
Your mode of death.
So here is slide 2.
Oof.
Oh, am I reading?
Yeah,
Sorry.
go for it.
Death by stabbing as you try to seduce a young ingenue, or would you rather die with a group of your best girlfriends as you face the guillotine?
With a group of my best girlfriends, because what else do you do on a Saturday night? Right?
None of your business, because it's a group of nuns who are going to the guillotine. Some dialogues
of the Carmelites.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I should have asked you first, Alissa. I'm so sorry.
Oh, by all means.
What do you think that other one's from? The death by stabbing.
This is one of Mark's favorite.
Yeah, I wake up every day talking about it. I'm
not true.
No.
Then you tell me.
Oh, I have to.
I give you the honors.
This is Puccini's.
Oh, Tosca, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, look at that. All right, my friends.
That was actually one of the first operas that I had ever seen.
Yeah, you know, and then when you think about the ways that everybody dies in these operas, they all just kind of blur together because there's some common threads. Some common threads.
Yes.
The last time we saw Tosca was Chicago.
Yeah.
And she totally did a side stab, which I always think is a little awkward. But, the Dialogues of the Carmelites, I saw a production of that in Fort Worth, Texas. That was amazing. This will date me. It was probably like over a decade ago, but it was really amazing. I feel like you don't see that opera very much around, but
No, ma'am.
it's very good.
No, it's getting a resurgence though. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
good
fair.
And that's good to have, right? Bring them back. Bring them back.
Yeah.
So, would you rather die from? Aaron. Aaron, by being sent into a smoldering oven after a swift kick in the rump from 2 children, or by serpent-induced suicide?
You know, I've got a soft spot for Hansel and Gretel, so I'm going to have to say getting kicked into the smoldering oven.
That's right. Humperdinck. Thank you.
Humperdinck.
Humperdinck. Do you know where? Do you know where that other one's from?
No.
This would be Cleopatra, Massenet.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I know of that opera, but I don't know the plot enough to be able to describe to you the serpent.
The 5-minute clip I watched today looked absolutely beautiful.
Oh my goodness.
Now, would you rather die after blindfolding your son, death at your own hands with your father's sword? Oh, I can't read. I've already had a whiskey.
Blindfolding your son, death at your own hands with your father's sword, or immolated in flames.
Just straight into the point. Immolated in flames, period. I'll go with that.
Oh my gosh, that would be Wagner, Götterdämmerung.
Mm-hmm.
And then the blindfold, do you know that one?
No.
Puccini, Madame Butterfly.
Yes.
Yeah, I should have used the captain's name in there. That would have been fun. But I didn't. Now, would you rather die by being thrown into a cauldron of boiling water, or buried alive with your star-crossed lover?
Let's go with the buddy system. Let's be buried alive with my star-crossed lover.
She's taking some risks right now.
You got to go with buddy system, 100%.
Now, I don't know the cauldron of boiling water.
Yeah, I didn't know either. Where is that on our
we
list?
got it on a sheet somewhere.
Hold on, we had to look it up.
Yeah, but the other one, buried alive, that's Aida right there.
Yes, Verdi's Aida.
Here we go.
Oh, that is an opera I've never heard of.
Yeah, how do you say that, Aaron?
I have no idea.
La Juve is what I would guess.
And the composer is Aleve. So
who would have
you missed me with that one?
I recommend Googling that, because the scene that I watched today, like, it was real fire on stage. It was pretty dope. Yeah. Really, yeah, it was great.
Okay, next one.
Go for it.
A slow multi-act death, most likely caused by tuberculosis. I feel like there's a couple operas that could fit that one. Dancing yourself to death in front of horrified onlookers.
I like this slow multi-act death. Let's do that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's Violetta, right? That's the character is Violetta. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then we got Electra there with the dancing yourself to death in front of horrified onlookers.
Oh, I was about to say Salome.
Oh, yeah, that would have been a good guess.
I'm sure it could have fit
with the Dance of the Seven Veils. That was a good guess.
Yeah.
I think this might be our last one.
All right.
Okay.
Death by E flat.
Death by E flat while going mad and collapsing in unspeakable death after killing your bridegroom.
Yes, Lucia. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
End of story. Yep. That mad scene is epic.
Stabbed in a fit of passion by Jose.
I love that mad scene. I'm going with Lucia.
Yeah. Very good.
That's dream roll. That's hashtag goals.
Oh, we have more. Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, and of course, it's Bizet's Carmen. Carmen.
Mm-hmm.
Da-da-da.
Oh, Carmen.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, no,
I'm so bad.
There-
I'm so bad. Okay. Would you, I didn't know either of these operas, just FYI. Would you be crushed by a burning rock of a volcano or an avalanche?
It's like that hot versus cold situation. Like, which do you prefer, right? I'm a summer baby, so I like being warm rather than cold. So let's just go with the volcano.
Going with the fall. Less Indies Galantes. Rolled right off the top.
You're
of me.
really digging deep for these ones.
Yeah, we know we need to speak French too. I believe that is definitely French.
Oh, okay.
Good. Obscure French opera. I love it.
Sorry. And then the other one's from La Wale.
Yeah, La Wally, right?
Wally, yeah, Wally.
Yeah. If San Francisco, I forget which opera company is actually doing a production of that, or already has. I forget.
Yeah, there's a beautiful aria in there that I love. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's like on a collection of arias, like either Renee Fleming or somebody.
Sorry.
But yeah, there's a beautiful aria, but I don't know the opera itself very well.
No, it's pretty obscure.
Now, would you rather die by throwing yourself off a cliff to a watery grave in order to prove your unwavering fidelity to the Dutchman? Or would you rather die as a prostitute meeting your end at the hands of Jack the Ripper? Neither?
You know what? Drowning seems like a slow, painful death, and I just have a fear of drowning anyway. So I feel like Jack the Ripper would be quick. Like he would just be done with it.
Okay.
So let's just go with that.
That would be from Berg Lulu.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's the other one's from Wagner, Flying Dutchman.
Yep.
I would just like, I read that as Wagner.
Oh no.
We're moving on.
I just, if this was musical theater, we wouldn't have this many death examples. It's opera, folks. Go for it.
Okay. Whoa. Eating a poisonous datura leaf and dying peacefully. Not sure I know that one. Dying in grief at your lover's side, even though you were both pardoned, which really, really sucks.
Dying peacefully sounds romantic. I feel like that's one of those times where we actually get to die peacefully. It's always a messy time in these other operas. But let's go with dying peacefully for once.
Yeah, I'll take the peaceful option. And that's the last one.
Okay, that was it.
That's
my
my
gosh,
friends.
thank you so much for playing.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, I need to brush up on my operas, that's for sure. Been teaching a lot of art song lately.
It's tough cookies, those opera deaths. Alissa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the work that you did last week. Your videos look fantastic. You sound fantastic. It was a pleasure working with you, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mark and Aaron, for such a lovely time. Not only just tonight, but for including me on this project. It's been such a pleasure.
Awesome. You're welcome.
Take care, my friend.
Have a good night.
Bye. Thank you.
Everyone, that was Alissa. Her fundraiser for Show Tune Sunday is still going on until this coming Sunday at 12 p.m. To donate, you can go to art4sb.org/showtunesunday or click the donation button on any of those Facebook videos. You can also go to Venmo and donate with the handle @Art4SB. If you know an artist in the South Bend area who needs some help right now throughout the COVID-19 financial crisis, please nominate them by visiting art4sb.org/showtunesunday. And for all of you there at home, please continue to like, share, comment on Facebook, and help us spread the word so we can make sure that we are connecting with artists who really need some support right now. From all of us here at Art4, thank you so much. Bye!